6/17/24 was the clear date that we got in a couple of QR codes back, and all signs pointed to Corpus Christi, Texas, last Monday night on Raw. The Wyatt Six make their re-debut, debut in these form, but re-debut for all of these characters. Uncle Howdy's crew showing up, and they promised a massacre. Boy, did they give us one.
I, in a million years, did not expect a debut like this for them.
It was wild.
Like, I didn't know what to expect, but this wasn't like, if you made me write out like the top 100 possibilities, this would have never appeared on any of them. I mean, the whole show, and I'm going to throw my wife a little bit under the bus here tonight.
That's okay. We know that she gets a little queasy with blood and some weird things. It's okay.
But like the whole time, she's not into the Uncle Howdy stuff. She's not into the creep. She finds it interesting, but she's not going to watch the videos and stuff. She just makes me tell her about them later. Sure. But all along, like the whole episode, she was like, I thought a massacre was coming. Like, no, nothing has happened the entire show except more QR codes popping up or like more glitches in the system, whatever. The last 5 minutes of Raw, I was completely enthralled. Yeah. Completely enthralled. And it was a legit massacre backstage.
Jim Cornette was dogging it on his show this week, but he said, if you're going to make a horror movie, just go make a horror movie. Well, guess what? They made a horror movie at the end of Monday Night Raw last week.
Jim Cornette's just going to do whatever he wants, and he's an idiot anyway.
Sure he is.
But I get, like, it felt like straight out of a horror movie.
It was insane.
And that's what these characters should feel like. But what I love, and I think in a way makes them even more creepy and eerie, is how grounded in reality they are.
Yep.
Like, they're not supernaturally popping up. They're not, like doing all this stuff. They are creepy because it's like, I could see people doing this. Like, this is wild, the stuff that they're doing. Yeah. Did not expect the blood splatter on the wall behind the dude's head.
No, that was wild.
Threw me for a loop. Did not expect Chad Gable to be bleeding like he got shot in the head or whatever it was. Yeah. Just a wild debut, re-debut, whatever you want to call it. And it does what all of these Bray Wyatt type characters do.
Yes.
The debut is always so captivating. It's about what happens next.
And we're going to get to what happens next from what happened on Monday Night Raw tonight. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. But these characters, in case that you missed it last week, of course, we have Taylor Rotunda, a.k.a. Bo Dallas, playing the part of Uncle Howdy. You have Nikki Cross playing the part of Sister Abigail. Dexter Loomis.
She's playing Abby the Witch.
Abby the Witch, not Sister Abigail. Yeah. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Because these are all based on the Funhouse
characters. Yeah.
So Mercy the Buzzard, played by Dexter Loomis. Ramblin' Rabbit, played by Eric Rowan. Yeah. And then we have Huskus the Pig, played by Joe Gacy.
Yeah.
So all of these are some weird, demented horror version of these puppets. It's not exactly what we saw in the Funhouse.
Yeah, or when Bray Wyatt returned.
Exactly.
Like, those characters kind of popped up. I will say this. The first thing I noticed about Uncle Howdy was the new mask.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't the whole face thing. It was the hat. It looks so... I don't know if it's just the half mask or if it's the hair that goes along with it. But he looks completely... He looks more... Like, it's terrifying now.
See, I had this problem when Bray was still around and when Uncle Howdy started showing up in the flesh, because there was some questions for a little while about who was Uncle Howdy. And then all of a sudden the mask changed and it was clearly Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
But the first couple of times that he showed up, it was like his real face was messed up or whatever. I find that more creepy than what we're actually getting. And I'm not saying I don't like what we're getting. I just found that more like, creepy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what happened tonight, I think that mask that he's wearing now makes a lot more sense than the leather face, skin face thing that he was wearing.
Yes, agreed.
But I was like, all of the masks were intense, Nikki Cross's was horrifying.
Hers is probably my favorite. Just because of how wild it is.
I think Eric Rowan's
is cool.
Is a cool, especially the back has the skull from the Bludgeon Brothers on it, and he's got the mallet and everything else. The vulture mask is cool. The pig mask, like all of the masks are just amazing.
Yep.
And that final shot of Raw, I mean, is just amazing. It's such a high spot to start in that I had no idea what to expect this week.
Oh, for sure.
And then when we got what we got, it was like, I was not expecting this, but I love this too. So like, what is happening with these characters?
Let's finish up last week, and then we'll get into what we saw tonight on Monday Night Raw. You mentioned Chad Gable. A lot of people speculated that there were other superstars that got attacked last week. Seemingly, that's been put to bed because Gunther showed up this week.
Braun Strowman.
Triple H was on Pat McAfee today. Braun Strowman showed up. We haven't seen Carmelo Hayes, I think, was on SmackDown.
Carmelo Hayes just straight up said it wasn't me. I'm not there.
Yeah. So all of that seemingly has been extra talent.
Yeah.
And the only one that we focused on for good reason was Chad Gable. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned maybe he died, maybe he didn't, whatever. That jokes to be had, whatever, but Chad Gable shows up tonight with security on Monday Night Raw. Yep. I'm interested in, a lot of people are talking about how Chad Gable has been emphasizing family over the last couple of weeks. And then some people pointed out online that one of the QR codes said, you stop saying thank you, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
My intrigue with Chad Gable is not, I wonder first why they picked him. Not for storyline purposes, just why Chad Gable. How big of a part did this play in him re-signing?
Yeah.
What if he didn't re-sign? Would this have either killed him off, literally, or would it have been somebody else? What? I know that's loaded, but what do you think?
I think if he didn't re-sign, I mean, what a way to have your character written off TV than that way. I know Ricochet got written off TV in a really cool way.
Right.
Not like that. That would have been wild. I don't know if they're even going to go into a feud with Chad Gable at this point. Like with what happened tonight, with what we saw. I know Nikki came out and all that stuff, but like they didn't target him. They didn't go after him. They didn't even really mention him and the other stuff. So I don't know if they're going to go after him. I don't know what the case is. I don't know who else though right now you could put him in a feud with on Raw. Because like Braun Breaker's doing fantastic stuff with the Intercontinental Championship. You don't want to do that. Maybe Strowman, but that's too on the nose kind of right now. I think you need a good introduction feud before you jump into that. I thought it would have been kind of cool if it was Adam Pearce. Like they just went after Adam Pearce.
Which we're still holding out hope for.
Yeah. But I don't know who else they would have gone after if it wasn't Chad Gable. I think Chad Gable makes the most sense. I'm trying to I'm trying to run my head through who else is on Raw, because like there's a lot of people you could do. Like Chad Gable turned on the Alpha Academy. Carmelo Hayes turned on Trick Williams. Yep. Somebody else just turned recently. Ludwig Kaiser turned on Giovanni Vinci. So like there are people you could go after. Yep. I feel like Chad Gable is the safest bet right now.
Right. And see, I think based on tonight, they could still do something with him, because I think what we have to remember and what this Wyatt Sick6 storyline is proving to us, Sam Roberts says this all the time, everything counts.
Yep.
Nothing is done flippantly.
Yep.
And for them to approach Chad Gable tonight, yes, Nikki Cross took the videotape over to Michael Cole, which we'll talk about, but I feel like there's still something with Gable. We know that the Alpha split up. He's trying to get them back, all those kind of things. I feel like there's something with Gable. Don't know what it is yet. Also don't know what it is with Pat McAfee yet.
He just didn't show up.
Pat was not on Raw tonight.
He's not on Twitter. He hadn't been tweeting anything out all night.
They've been haunting his actual show on ESPN, which is wild.
Yeah.
They've done that a couple of times. He wasn't on commentary tonight. So, I mean, I'm sure he's going to show up for a show tomorrow, but what is the deal with McAfee?
Especially because it was in Indy. So like I don't know where else he would have been. I feel like if it was something Wyatt Sick related, they would have had to have shown something on TV tonight. So maybe he just had prior obligations, or I don't know, trying to work out something with College Game Day to get him back on TV or whatever the case is. But I honestly don't know why he wasn't on the show or what's going on with them. But I'm sure the people who aren't wrestling fans watching a show on ESPN were highly confused by the stuff that was happening to him over the week.
Like You Lied popped up and all this. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Like, is he talking about Caitlin Clark? Is he talking, what is he doing here, Just saying. Yeah, you're right. They are confused. Let's get to what happened tonight because, again, Nikki Cross delivered the videotape to Michael Cole, and we were sitting here watching it, and we were like, okay, it's probably a hostage thing.
Yeah, with Pat McAfee.
Yeah. That makes sense. No. What we got was a therapy session between Uncle Howdy and Taylor Rotunda, a.k.a. Bo Dallas, with no mask. No nothing. And Uncle Howdy starts asking the questions that the therapist asked in the 55-minute Twitch takeover. And then he asks about Bray dying.
Oh, my gosh.
And we both looked at each other when we were watching. It was like, what is happening right now?
Oh, my gosh.
You, as a Bray Wyatt guy, like, what are your thoughts as you're watching this and trying to figure out where this story is going to go next?
I love it for many reasons. One, I think and it's kind of somewhat of a dark place to take this, but if the roles were reversed, Bray would be doing the exact same thing.
Yes, he would.
And I think if you're going to introduce, because again, it could be a split personality character, it could be, I honestly I have no idea what it is right now. Yep. But you have to answer these questions. Like you have to answer the questions of why. What are your motives? Why are you doing this? And the motive that we got tonight from Bo Dallas was he is continuing Bray Wyatt's legacy. Yeah, he's going to do what his brother did, and I love that. Like I think that's a great direction for this to start, especially if you're calling him the Wyatt Sick6. Yep. This is the direction you have to go.
We have to know why it's called. And the average fan that is coming in and is introduced to this has to know why it's called Wyatt.
Right.
We got to know.
Right. And so I think that's a great direction. Plus, they pull out at one point and they're absolutely in the fun house.
Yep.
Which is just a wild thing. I don't know. Like I love that they've done this. I love the direction they're going for. I wasn't expecting it to go as deep as it did because he even straight up he asked how you felt when Bray died, and then he said, "How do you feel exploiting your brother's legacy?" Yeah, and it's like that. Like these are questions that I'm sure fans have. Some fans have. Some people are asking, but for the character, you have to ask these questions. Yep. And it's better to just do it now and do it the way they did because you can see the motive behind why he's doing what he's doing is because he's hurting. Yep. And he's going to hurt people who are not treating their family right. Yep. Point in case, Chad Gable. Yep. And so I love it. They're not baby faces. They're not heels. They're doing what they feel is right. Yep. And that's scary in some ways because it's like the kind of like the Homelander or the Punisher from Marvel, like superhero. They're not bad guys. They're going to get justice, but they're not like Batman who's like not going to kill anybody. They're going to go take people's heads off to get the justice they want. Right. That's what the Wyatt Sick6 is going to be, and I think that is a fantastic direction for them to go in.
I do too. It was really interesting. You talking about Bray and continuing his legacy or whatever, and watching that video. My takeaway from that video was that I don't know if we're going to call him Bo Dallas or Taylor Rotunda or whatever. Doesn't matter. That dude, when I closed my eyes for a minute watching that video, all I heard was Bray Wyatt. Well, all I heard was Bray.
And this is the question I was going to ask you because one of the trepidations you had was about Bo Dallas doing this. Yes. After the last 2 weeks, how are you feeling about him taking over this role? I mean, I know we haven't seen a lot,
Right.
And there's another question I'll ask you after this because I've seen it all over the internet. I think it's a question we have to ask.
Sure.
But what do you think he can? I don't want to say fulfill the role of Bray Wyatt because that's sort of an impossible task to do. But how do you think he can do with a character like this?
I think last week was a home run.
Yeah.
They had very little room for error in doing that the way they did it.
Yeah.
And if one thing screws up,
because nothing was pre-recorded to look like.
No. I do have a little bit of beef with how it happened, but it's not enough to dive into.
Yeah.
It's fine, whatever. But last week was great. They nailed it. So much like I just feel like they couldn't have missed last week. If I can give a sports reference real quick, a lot of what is being talked about with the new college football video game. I know that's a weird place to go, but just bear with me for a second. A lot of the talk about the new college football game is that they can't miss no matter what they put out.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had a game in like 12 years.
Right.
They can't miss.
As long as it's not a Madden reskin, we're good.
No matter what they put out, people are going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
It's the follow-up.
Yeah.
That we're concerned about. How can they follow up? Same thing with this.
Yeah.
They were going to knock the debut out of the park. We knew that.
Yeah.
What's coming next? This video tonight, again, I closed my eyes and I heard and I saw Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
When I closed my eyes.
Yep.
That was wild to me. So, do I think he can fulfill Bray's legacy? No. Do I think he can continue it on a trajectory that Bray would be happy with? You better believe it.
Yeah. And I think it is going to set him up with his own legacy at the same time. And which I think is fantastic.
Because it takes most characters a long time, or most people in wrestling, a long time to find their spot anyway.
It does. And, Bo and Bray kind of have a very parallel path. Bray got to do what he wanted to do with the Bray Wyatt character and not be Huskus or not be some of the other things that he was kind of positioned to be when in NXT and everything. He got to go do the Bray thing.
Yep.
Bo Dallas was stuck being Bo Dallas. And for all the crap that character got, he was funny in that role. The Bo Leave stuff was hilarious. He killed it. So now he's getting the chance to be him for the first time, it feels like. And I feel like, in-ring wise stuff, we'll talk about here in a minute, but character-wise, he's got the same gifts that Bray had, I feel like. And when he talks, especially when he cuts a promo like this tonight, people are going to listen. And that's what Bray's thing was. Like, when Bray spoke, a majority of the crowd was going to be listening.
Sure.
Like, captivated by what he was saying.
Yep.
The question always is with these kind of characters, take The Undertaker out, because I think The Undertaker is the only one, because I'll even throw Kane into this a little bit. Okay. When the bell rings, what do we get? And that's the question that I think a lot of people are asking is, you shouldn't see Ramblin' Rabbit on a random Raw having a match.
Right.
So what do we do in ring-wise with the Wyatt Six?
I don't know. I don't think... We speculated about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't think Bo Dallas should wrestle a match. Ever. I think on a special circumstance, maybe. But I think with this new Triple H-led regime, we're not going to see just some random Ramblin' Rabbit match on Raw. We're not going to see some Abby the Witch match on Raw just for the sake of having it.
Right.
I feel like this is going to be so protected, especially with Netflix right around the corner. This is going to be so protected.
Yeah, because once they're on Netflix, the reins
All
are
bets
off.
are off.
The reins are off with this. I will say this. I don't think, and I'm speculating off of what we saw tonight.
Yes.
I don't think Uncle Howdy should wrestle except very rarely.
Absolutely.
I think Bo Dallas, Taylor Wyatt, whatever they're going to call him, I think him by himself could wrestle. I think this whole group is going to be what The Fiend originally should have been. before, Vince got his hands on it and completely choked the life out of it.
Sure.
I think this whole group is going to be very similar to that, where possibly when they're out of their masks, they're different people. Or not necessarily different people, but it's like Bray Wyatt out of The Fiend was the Mr. Rogers TV host, whatever. Yep. We saw him wrestle a couple of times, and it was what it was. But when The Fiend showed up, it was all bets were off. Somebody's going to die, that type of thing. I feel like you could do that with Bo, have him be this ruthless guy, but when push comes to shove, sometimes Uncle Howdy has to come out. And when Uncle Howdy comes out, all bets are off at that point. But I don't think we don't need that all the time. I don't want to see, if we're going this route with these characters, which I did not expect them to go, to be completely honest with you, I don't need to see Uncle Howdy every week. I don't want to see Uncle Howdy every week. Bo Dallas, I want to see Bo Dallas. I want to hear him talk. I don't want to see Uncle Howdy until we have to see Uncle Howdy sometimes.
I got you. You said before we started recording that you think it would be cool if we did this sit-down interview type thing with all of these characters.
Yeah.
Every week.
And they're interviewed by their alter ego.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite interesting.
There's also the thing we didn't talk about, Chad Gable walking into the arena, and like you said, nothing is done by happenstance or coincidence.
Yep.
When he was walking by the WWE truck, he passed R-Truth. I don't think R-Truth has anything to do with the Y6, although an interaction between R-Truth and Uncle Howdy would be hilarious.
It would be.
But he kept walking, and there was Alexa Bliss in her Lily the Doll attire thing, standing right behind him on the truck. So who knows?
We saw the truck thing play out at WrestleMania.
Yep.
With Rock and with Cena and Cody and all that kind of stuff. I'll be interested to see what they do with it. Here's the thing, is like I was sitting and I was watching with such anticipation this weekend. I know we're going long on this Wyatt Sick stuff, but this stuff has been brewing for so long.
Yeah.
There's so many directions it can go. We have so much more to get to on this episode. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. But I'm watching this episode of Raw tonight with such anticipation of what's going to happen. And part of me, like you said, you don't want to see Uncle Howdy every week. I don't want to see too much.
Yeah.
I want to be looking over my shoulder at every point. When are they showing? When are they showing? I mean, we were watching the Chad Gable thing, and you saw me. I was peering around, trying to figure out what's in the background, blah, 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 whatever. I want to have all these questions look over my shoulder, but at the same time, I want 3 hours of this to figure out what this is and what's going to happen.
And that's why I think the debut works so well. Is because I think because we even talked about this, they're going to kick off the show with it. Yep. Like something's going to happen at Clash at the Castle to where they're going to kick off Raw with the Wyatt Sick or Uncle Howdy, whatever they were going to call it.
Yep.
We got the glitch in the intro and all that stuff. Nothing.
Yep.
Like nothing. There was people were trying to point out up in the rafters the silhouette of Uncle Howdy. Don't know if it was him or not. You couldn't really tell.
Right.
All this other stuff, the glitch over Drew McIntyre. When Drew came out for his promo, we were all like, this is it. He's going after Drew McIntyre, big name, nothing.
Yep.
And then the end happened.
Yep.
It was 3 hours of that anticipation. And last week was one of the best Raws I remember watching in a long time.
Yep. We're going to get to a bunch of other stuff that happened.
I feel like part of that was the entire anticipation of when is this guy going to show up.
Yep.
Tonight was kind of the same way of like the triple threat. Something's got to happen in the triple threat. Well, something did kind of happen, but no answers. And we're like, okay. And then we get the DVD and we're like, well, what's going to happen with that? And then they didn't play it right away. Right. It took like 3 or 4 commercial breaks and then they played it. And now we're like, well, now I got to come back next week to see what. So like it's doing what the Bray stuff did very well in the beginning when he returned.
Yeah.
Answering some, but adding more questions.
Yep.
The problem that we ran into was we did that for way too long without answering a lot of questions. And then we got to the Rumble, and then all the other stuff happened that was out of everybody's control with him getting sick and all of that. This time, yes, let's stretch it out, but let's not stretch it out way too far.
We answered some big questions tonight.
We did. We answered a lot of questions tonight, but we also were like, what does this even mean though? Like we answered some, but we still don't know the bigger picture,
right?
Which I love.
Do you feel like though, with the comparison to the Bray stuff, do you feel like, because I feel like we're already moving at a quicker pace.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah, and going back to the Bray stuff, like that first promo that Bray cut when he came back, just being him for the first time was incredible. Yep. You got the Uncle Howdy tease at the end of that, which was like, oh, what's this? But yeah, I feel like we kind of got the same thing. Like that was the first time we saw Bo Dallas as Bo Dallas. Mm-hmm. Like, and it wasn't in front of a crowd. It wasn't in front of that. But it was just an interesting way to do that. That I feel like we are moving at a little bit of a quicker pace. Mm-hmm. Depends on what happens next week.
Right.
Next week could either keep that pace going, or we could just like really, really quickly, depending on what happens.
Well, we hope you tune in to our show next week. You can do that on our YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. Hit that like button. If you're listening on whatever podcast platform that you want, just make sure you're following the show. We would appreciate it. We bring you this show each and every Tuesday. Just make sure that you are checking us out. Like I said, especially on our YouTube channel, so many great videos there. We've got all our episodes organized into playlists and all the kinds of things. We got shorts to check out. We got all the things. So just make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit that notifications bell. That way you know each time we upload a new